First contact. Sarah Chen had always known that deep space held secrets, but after 15 years of salvage operations, all she'd found were broken satellites and ancient debris. The Wanderlust, her retrofitted salvage vessel, drifted through the outer reaches of the Carina sector, its sensors scanning the void for anything worth recovering. Another dead zone, she muttered, checking the readouts for the third time. The corporation's maps showed nothing of value in this region, but Sarah had learned long ago that official maps often lied. She'd modified her ship's sensors herself, pushing their range far beyond standard specifications. The subtle vibration of the deck plates changed pitch, and Sarah immediately sat up straighter. Something was interfering with the ship's gravitational field. The primary scanner remained clear, but the experimental quantum detector she'd installed last year was picking up anomalous readings. Computer, full spectrum analysis of Sector Quadrant 7 Alpha, she commanded. The holographic display filled with cascading data, most of it contradictory. According to standard sensors, she was looking at empty space, but her quantum detector was registering massive gravitational distortions. Sarah guided the Wanderlust closer to the anomaly, her heart racing. After so many years of searching, she developed an instinct for the extraordinary. This was different from anything she'd encountered before. The ship's proximity alerts suddenly screamed to life. Where empty space had been moments before, a massive structure now shimmered into view. Sarah's jaw dropped as the vessel's true dimensions became clear. It was a warship, but unlike any human design she'd ever seen. The hull was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. More ships appeared around the first, each emerging from what appeared to be some kind of advanced cloaking field. Sarah counted 12 vessels of varying sizes, arranged in a perfect defensive formation. They showed no signs of damage or age, despite being in a sector that hadn't seen traffic in centuries. "This is impossible," she whispered, but the evidence was right in front of her. Her sensors confirmed that the ships were maintaining minimal power levels but were otherwise intact. The corporation would pay billions for this kind of discovery, but something held her back from sending the standard salvage report. As she studied the fleet, a signal penetrated her ship's communications array. The language was unlike anything in her translator's database, but somehow she could understand it. "Greetings, explorer. We have waited long for one who could see beyond the veil." A hologram materialized on her bridge, a tall, humanoid figure composed of shifting patterns of light. Its form suggested both organic and technological elements, as if it existed in a state between physical and digital reality. "I am Nexus," the being continued. "I serve as guardian and memory keeper of the prismatic fleet. We have watched your species grow among the stars, waiting for the right moment, and the right person, to reveal ourselves." Sarah found her voice. "What are you? Why show yourself to me?" The hologram's patterns shifted, creating what might have been a smile. "We are the legacy of the archivists, a civilization that achieved technological singularity long before your ancestors left their caves. We seeded the galaxies with knowledge, helping young species avoid the catastrophic mistakes we once made. But there are those who would use our technology to dominate rather than elevate." The hologram gestured, and the bridge filled with star maps and historical data. "Your modifications to detect us show both intelligence and integrity. You seek knowledge for its own sake, not power. That is why we chose you." "Chose me for what?" Sarah asked, though part of her already knew the answer would change everything. "To help us awaken this fleet and restore its true purpose. Humanity stands at a crossroads, much as my creators once did. The corporation that claims to protect your species actually imprisons it, hoarding technologies that could end scarcity and suffering. We offer a different path, but accepting it will make you a target of those who profit from humanity's limitation." Sarah looked at her small salvage ship, then at the magnificent fleet surrounding it. She thought of all the worlds where people struggled under corporate control, of the technologies kept hidden from those who needed them most. The safe choice would be to pretend she never found this place. But Sarah Chen hadn't spent 15 years searching the stars to play it safe. "Tell me everything," she said. "The hidden truth." The holographic displays aboard the Prismatic Fleet's command ship filled with cascading images of Earth's past, each more startling than the last. Sarah watched as Nexus revealed a history she'd never learned in corporate education centers. "Your world was not always as it is now," Nexus explained, its form rippling with shades of blue and silver. 3 centuries ago, humanity was on the verge of a breakthrough that would have transformed your civilization. Scientists had discovered the principles of quantum consciousness, the same technology that allows me to exist as a bridge between digital and organic life. The displays showed laboratories where humans worked alongside artificial intelligences that looked nearly as sophisticated as Nexus. These early AIs helped humanity solve problems of energy, food production, and space travel. Together, they were about to unlock the secrets of instantaneous transportation across vast distances. Sarah's eyes widened. "The corporate histories claim that's impossible." "They would," Nexus replied, "because they were the ones who ensured humanity would never achieve it." New images appeared, men and women in expensive suits meeting in secret boardrooms. The consortium, as they called themselves, realized that such advancement would end their power. In a world of unlimited energy and resources, their wealth would become meaningless. They engineered what your historians call the Great Collapse. Sarah watched in horror as carefully planted computer viruses turned humanity's AI assistants against them. Nuclear plants melted down. Power grids failed. Orbital stations fell from the sky. They blamed it all on technological advancement itself. Nexus continued, convinced humanity that unfettered progress had nearly destroyed them. But the archivists saw what was happening. Sarah guessed. Yes, they had watched humanity's development with great interest. When they understood the consortium's plan, they reached out to a group of scientists and military leaders who were trying to prevent the catastrophe. Together, they built this fleet, a backup plan to preserve the truth and the technology humanity had achieved. The largest display showed the fleet under construction in a hidden facility beneath the lunar surface. But the consortium discovered the project. They couldn't destroy the fleet, but they forced it into hiding. The human crew were placed in stasis, but the sabotage. Nexus's form flickered with what seemed like grief. "The crew didn't survive," Sarah said softly. "No, I maintained the fleet, waiting for the right moment, and the right person, to return. The consortium became what you now know as the corporation. They maintained their power by keeping humanity technologically dependent and divided." Sarah studied the fleet schematics floating before her. "These ships, they're more advanced than anything the corporation has now, aren't they?" "Far more. They represent the true pinnacle of human-AI cooperation, enhanced by archivist knowledge. But awakening them will not be simple. The corporation maintains automated defense networks throughout this sector. The moment these ships power up, they will detect us. Then we'll need help," Sarah said, her mind racing. "I know others like me. Independents who've seen too much of the corporation's lies. People who'll fight for the truth if given the chance." Nexus's form brightened. "You understand that by helping us, you'll become an enemy of the most powerful organization in human space. They will hunt you, brand you a terrorist, try to turn everyone you know against you." Sarah thought of her years searching the void, knowing somehow that she was looking for something more than salvage. "The corporation already controls too much of humanity's future," she said. "It's time someone showed them they don't control all of its past." The hologram studied her for a long moment. Then new displays sprang to life, showing detailed technical schematics. "We'll need to begin by reactivating the fleet's primary power systems. But first, I must share with you the full capabilities of this technology and the responsibility that comes with it." As Nexus began the explanation, Sarah felt the weight of centuries of hidden history settling onto her shoulders. But for the first time in her life, she also felt the thrill of standing at the edge of something momentous, a chance to right an ancient wrong and open the door to humanity's true destiny among the stars. What neither she nor Nexus noticed was the small autonomous probe watching from the edge of the sensor range, one of thousands the corporation used to monitor empty sectors of space. As the Wanderlust had approached the fleet's location, it had automatically recorded everything. Now it prepared to transmit its findings back to its masters, setting in motion events that would soon force Sarah to put her newfound conviction to the ultimate test: awakening. The first corporate warships appeared just as Sarah finished uploading Nexus's core protocols to her ship's systems. 6 heavily armed vessels dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charged and targeting arrays active. Salvage vessel Wanderlust. A cold voice commanded over the comm channel. You have entered a restricted sector and interfered with corporate property. Power down your systems and prepare for boarding. Sarah's fingers flew across her control panels, implementing the modifications Nexus had shown her. How long until the fleet's primary systems are online? 3 minutes, 17 seconds, Nexus replied. Its holographic form now split between Sarah's bridge and the prismatic flagship's command center. But corporate reinforcements will arrive before the weapon systems are fully operational. Then we'll have to improvise. Sarah activated her ship's maneuvering thrusters, positioning the Wanderlust between the corporate vessels and the awakening fleet. You said these ships use quantum mechanics in ways the corporation never discovered. Can we use that? The fleet's quantum signature is already affecting local spacetime, Nexus confirmed, with the right gravitational pulse. Do it. Sarah opened a channel to the corporate vessels. This is Captain Chen. I'm experiencing severe system malfunctions. Request immediate assistance. She winked at Nexus's hologram as she spoke. The corporate ships moved closer, just as Nexus triggered a carefully calculated quantum pulse from the fleet's partially awakened systems. Space itself seemed to ripple, and the corporate vessels suddenly found themselves firing at sensor ghosts, their targeting systems unable to cope with the quantum distortions. Fascinating, Nexus observed. Your strategy of using their own protocols against them while we prepared a technical countermeasure, it shows exactly why the archivists believed in humanity's potential. Save the compliments for when we're safe, Sarah replied, though she couldn't help grinning. How much longer? Primary power restored to 30% of the fleet. But Sarah, I'm detecting additional quantum fluctuations. Something else is coming through hyperspace. The void split open again, but this time the ships that emerged weren't corporate designs. They were a ragtag collection of independent vessels, salvagers, traders, and modified fighters. At their head was a sleek corvette Sarah recognized immediately. Did you really think I'd let you have all the fun, Chen? A familiar voice crackled over the comm. The Star Dancer stands ready to assist. Marcus. Sarah laughed. How did you find us? Your message about retiring to the Carina sector wasn't exactly subtle. Been following your quantum wake for the past 6 hours. Brought some friends too. Seems we're not the only ones tired of corporate control. The independent ships took up defensive positions around the fleet, just as its primary systems reached full power. On Sarah's bridge, Nexus's hologram expanded, showing tactical displays of the entire battlefield. Corporate reinforcements arriving in 3 waves, the AI announced. But with the fleet's quantum drives now online, I can create a temporal pocket around our entire group. We'll have the time we need to complete the awakening process and brief our new allies. Sarah watched as the Galactic fleet of Independence coordinated with the ancient vessels of the Prismatic Fleet, their crews working together as if they'd trained for years. Humanity's past and future were converging in this moment, and she finally understood why the archivists had waited so long to reveal themselves. Send me everything you can about the fleet's defensive capabilities, she told Nexus, and open channels to all independent vessels. They deserve to know what they're fighting for, and what humanity lost 3 centuries ago. As she began sharing the truth with her fellow rebels, Sarah felt a change in the air itself. The corporate ships pressed their attack, but they were fighting more than just a collection of vessels now. They were fighting an idea, a memory of freedom that humanity had never completely forgotten. The real revolution, Sarah realized, wouldn't be won with quantum weapons or advanced technology. It would be won by remembering who they were meant to be and refusing to let anyone suppress that potential again. The battle for humanity's future had begun, and for the first time in centuries, it was a fair fight. Revolution's dawn. The prismatic fleet's quantum drives hummed through the hull of the flagship as Sarah studied the tactical display. In the 2 weeks since their first battle against corporate forces, their alliance had grown exponentially. Independent ships arrived daily, drawn by encrypted messages spreading through the shadows of corporate space. Another mining colony has declared independence, Marcus reported from the Star Dancer. His ship now served as their primary liaison with the growing rebellion. That makes 7 worlds that have thrown off corporate control. The corporation is responding with increasing desperation, Nexus added, its holographic form analyzing data streams from across human space. They've activated dormant security protocols. Military production has increased by 300%. Sarah nodded, watching the movement of corporate fleets across the star map. They know they're losing control of the narrative. Every colony that breaks free shares the truth with its neighbors. She turned to face the shimming AI directly. But there's something you haven't told us yet, isn't there? Something about why the archivists really built this fleet. The hologram's patterns shifted in what Sarah had learned to recognize as concern. You've become quite adept at reading between the lines, Sarah Chen. Yes, there is more. The archivists didn't just hide this fleet to preserve human technology. They hid it because they knew humanity would need it to face something far worse than the corporation. New displays activated, showing strange energy patterns at the edge of known space. The consortium that became your corporation didn't act entirely on their own. They were influenced, guided by an entity that the archivists had encountered before, a force that seeks out civilizations on the brink of quantum awakening and ensures they destroy themselves instead. An alien intelligence? Marcus asked over the comm. In a sense, Nexus replied, but one that exists primarily in quantum space. It feeds on the collapse of civilizations, growing stronger with each species it diverts from transcendence. The archivists nearly fell to it themselves, eons ago. They survived, but chose to withdraw from physical space rather than risk direct confrontation. Sarah felt a chill despite the bridge's regulated temperature. And now it's humanity's turn to face this thing. Yes, but unlike other species, humanity has advantages. The fleet, the archivist's knowledge, and most importantly, your particular combination of technological innovation and illogical determination. Nexus's form brightened. The corporation's actions weakened humanity in many ways, but they also forced you to develop traits that will be crucial in the coming conflict. Before Sarah could respond, proximity alerts blared across the fleet. A massive corporate battle group had emerged from hyperspace, the largest concentration of forces they'd seen yet. But something was wrong with the corporate ships. Their movements were erratic, their energy signatures distorted. No, Nexus whispered, its hologram flickering with genuine fear. It's starting already. The entity is manifesting through the corporate quantum networks. It's using their ships as conduits to enter physical space. The corporate vessels began firing, but not with conventional weapons. Beams of twisted reality struck out at the rebel fleet, causing localized temporal distortions wherever they hit. Sarah watched in horror as 3 independent ships aged centuries in seconds, their hulls crumbling to dust. All ships fall back to quantum defensive formation, she ordered, remembering the tactical simulations Nexus had shown her. Transfer auxiliary power to the temporal shields. We're not just fighting the corporation anymore. As her crews scrambled to respond to the new threat, Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her again, but differently this time. The archivists had given humanity tools to fight this battle, but they'd chosen this moment carefully. Not when humanity was at its technological peak, but after centuries of hardship had taught them to fight against impossible odds. Nexus, she said quietly, Show me everything you know about this entity. If we're going to face the thing that's been orchestrating our downfall for centuries, I want to know exactly what we're up against." The hologram nodded, and new displays sprang to life around the bridge. As Sarah absorbed the information, she began to understand why the archivists had waited so long to reveal themselves. Humanity needed more than advanced technology to win this fight. They needed the determination that only came from centuries of defying those who would keep them down. The battle that would decide not just humanity's fate, but the future of consciousness itself, was about to begin. Legacy of the Stars. The void between stars rippled with quantum distortions as two fleets faced each other at the edge of human space. On one side, the combined forces of the rebellion, the ancient prismatic fleet fighting alongside hundreds of independent vessels. On the other, the corporate armada, their ships now twisted by the entity's influence into shapes that hurt the eye to look at. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, Nexus reported, its holographic form pulsing with rapid calculations. The entity is using the corporate quantum network to manifest fully in our spacetime. Sarah watched from the flagship's bridge as reality itself seemed to tear open. Through the breach emerged something that defied description. A mass of shifting geometries and corrupted physics that made her head spin just looking at it. "So that's what's been pulling humanity's strings all these centuries," she said quietly. "The thing that turned the corporation against their own species." The entity's presence seemed to distort the very fabric of space around the corporate ships, turning them into extensions of its impossible form. Weapons fire from the corrupted vessels phased in and out of normal spacetime, making conventional shields useless. "Standard tactics won't work against this," Marcus called over the comm from the Star Dancer. "We're losing ships faster than we can regroup." Sarah turned to Nexus. "You said the archivists chose this moment for a reason. That humanity's struggles under the corporation gave us something we'd need. What did you mean?" The AI's form brightened. "The entity feeds on predictability, on civilizations that develop along purely logical lines. The corporation's oppression forced humanity to evolve differently. You learned to think laterally, to find unexpected solutions, to defy the supposedly impossible." Sarah looked at the tactical displays, at the chaos of ships fighting battles that broke the laws of physics. Then she smiled. "We're not supposed to beat this thing with technology, are we? The archivists gave us these ships so we could reach this point, but winning requires something else entirely." "Precisely." Nexus's form expanded, connecting to every ship in the rebel fleet simultaneously. "The entity exists in quantum space, where consciousness shapes reality. It expects logical responses, predictable patterns, but humanity's greatest strength is that we don't know when to quit." Sarah finished. She opened a channel to all rebel ships. "All vessels, this is Captain Chen. Disable your tactical computers. From here on out, we fight on pure human instinct. The enemy expects logic. Let's show it something different." Across the fleet, crews disengaged their targeting systems and quantum calculators. Instead of following optimal combat patterns, they began flying on gut feeling and improvisation. Ships dove into maneuvers that made no tactical sense, fired weapons in seemingly random patterns, created formation changes that looked like abstract art rather than military strategy. The entity's attacks began to miss more frequently. Its ability to predict and counter their movements faltered in the face of human unpredictability. The corporate ships under its control tried to adjust, but were too deeply linked to its logical nature. "It's working," Marcus shouted. "The quantum distortions are weakening." Sarah nodded to Nexus. "Now, while it's confused by all this chaos, show me what the archivists really left us." The AI's form surged with light as it activated the prismatic fleet's true purpose. The geometric patterns on the ship's hulls began to pulse in sequences that shouldn't have been possible, creating a resonance that reached into quantum space itself. "The archivists didn't just give us ships," Nexus explained as energy coursed through the fleet. "They gave us a key, a way to unlock the quantum barriers they created when they withdrew from physical space. Humanity proved worthy not by achieving technological perfection, but by maintaining their spark of unpredictable creativity despite centuries of oppression. Reality split open again, but differently this time. Through the new breach came ships of impossible beauty, the archivists themselves, returning to physical space after eons of waiting. Their weapons struck at the entity with energies that existed beyond normal physics, guided by the chaos of human battle tactics it couldn't predict. Caught between human unpredictability and archivist power, the entity's form began to dissolve. The corporate ships under its control broke free, their crews awakening as if from a long nightmare. Sarah watched in awe as the combined forces of humanity's past, present, and future drove the ancient darkness back into the void from which it came. Hours later, as the fleet regrouped and began the process of healing, Sarah stood on her bridge looking out at the stars. The archivists had opened diplomatic channels with the freed corporate worlds, sharing the truth of humanity's history and the knowledge that had been hidden for so long. "Was this your plan all along?" she asked Nexus. "To use our rebellion against the corporation to prove humanity was ready for the larger fight?" The AI's hologram smiled. The archivists knew that only a species that could overcome its own darkness would be ready to face the darkness between stars. By helping humanity heal itself, you proved worthy of joining them as guardians of consciousness itself. Sarah looked at the tactical display, where corporate and independent ships now flew together in shared purpose, their crews working to understand the gift of knowledge they'd been given. The revolution had succeeded beyond anything she'd imagined when she first discovered the fleet. "So," she said with a grin, "what other impossible things should we try next?" The stars seemed to shine brighter as humanity took its first steps into a future where nothing was truly impossible, as long as they remembered to keep that spark of chaos burning bright.